Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise. Hello and welcome to Stop Now. I'm Nate.
I'm Melissa, and we're back for another show, and we are reunited.
Yes, it feels so good, Melissa. I didn't know what was going on because for the last 3 or 4 weeks, we just haven't been able to get on the same page. I don't know if I said something to offend you. I don't know if you got your stimulus check and you're getting all bougie and brand new on me, but I'm glad that we are able to join forces again this week, and we have a big show for the people out there this week. Like, I feel like Danny Tanner because we got a full house.
Really? Because I was getting a Brady Bunch kind of vibe with all the boxes going on.
Okay, I see where you're going there. Like, I think what we're really trying to say is we both still are like in the aftermath of WandaVision, and we still got sitcoms on the brain right now. But be that as it may, Melissa, I'm glad that we had a chance to kind of reconnect because I was talking with a friend this week about 1 year later, 1 year after the pandemic kind of became real, so to speak, in America, because I feel like it was this fictional thing. It was out there. It was something that happened to other people, right? It didn't happen to us. And ironically enough, it was like once the NBA shut down last year, then it got real for people. And so, we were kind of talking, and it's like, yeah, like everybody I think is feeling this weird sense of isolation / like oversharing because we're all on these calls, whether it's for work or just trying to catch up with your friends and whatnot. And so, like, hopefully we're starting to get out of the woods, but for that to happen, Melissa, people got to do the right thing and keep washing your hands and following the guidelines. Like, I know people don't want to follow the rules, but follow the rules one time, people, so we can have a barbecue.
Absolutely right. The vaccines, they are out there, but we do have to continue to follow these guidelines. They have been put in place for a reason. So, we are hoping that we get out there and we can get back to normal soon. But, we have some wonderful, wonderful guests here today. We have a very full house here. We have Jason, we have Spock, okay, and Steve. So please, everybody, we're going to start with Jason. Please introduce yourself to everybody. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Jason Frye. I am a secular humanist. I'm a humanist celebrant, think non-religious clergy when I say that. And also, I am the president of the Humanist Association of San Diego and the CEO of the Secular Policy Institute.
Hey, how we doing?
Oh, there we go. Steve is in the building now.
Oh, yeah.
Put me on there.
My name is Steve Hill. I am a satanic humanist. I'm also a former United States Marine, retired correctional peace officer for the state of California. Run for office, state senate a couple of times just to kind of get a message out there. And I look forward to joining this conversation.
All right, now, and Ashfaq, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi, this is Ashfaq Ismail. So I am a journalist. I write blogs. So I have written contributed a couple of articles for Stop Now.
Yeah, so we got a full house, as you said, Melissa. Everywhere you look, there's a great guest with us this week, and so I guess we'll start with Jason. So when you talk about being a humanist, like for those out there that may just be tuning in and not knowing kind of the definitions and these terms that we're gonna be using this week, like how would you define that to yourself? How would you define that to other people?
Sure. So when people think of humanists, in the public discourse, not so much now because we've seen this growth in the number of people who aren't religious in this country or otherwise religiously unaffiliated in the growth of the humanist movement in the United States. But for a couple generations before this, the term humanist took on a very negative light. Like the secular humanists are trying to destabilize our country and take prayer out of schools and bring us down this path of utter moral decay. But humanists. Humanists are a group of people that most of us are non-religious, some of us are religious, but we have this idea that the world can be a better place, and it will be a better place if we work together to make this a better place. The ethical component at the starting point, this comes from this group called Ethical Culture that's been around for a couple hundred years. Their motto is deed before creed. And one of their philosophers, Ed Erickson, said that our moral commitments to each other would be the same whether or not God existed. So this is the starting point for humanism. Like I said, we can look at the world and see that it can be a better place, and we can work together to make it a better place. And regardless if God exists or not, we still have this strong moral obligation to cooperate, to work our asses off, to make this place better for everyone. Because if somebody somewhere is not thriving because somebody else is thriving, then that's a human-made condition, and human-made problems have human-made solutions. And it's, like I said, our obligation. And there was a book that came out in 2008 called Good Without God. And with Good Without God, it's that idea that humanists are good without God for humanism. And it's, we are humanists and we are here to help.
Steve, like, when you describe yourself as a satanic humanist, like, I ain't gonna lie, brother. Like, when I heard that word, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know we was doing this morning. Like, how would you, because I know, like, words have meanings, right? And words there's a reaction. And so when you say that you're a satanic humanist, like, what does that mean for you? Like, how does that influence the way that you live your life?
Are we good?
We good.
Jason referenced some humanists that are religious. I'm not one of them. I'm a satanic humanist, and I adopt the concept of Satan because just like Jesus, he hasn't come back either. So how do we really know Satan is the bad guy? We be getting a ton of bullshit from these Christians when they're the only voice, but everything that's negative, bad, or evil is attributed to Satan. How do we know that? I mean, Satan didn't send no slave ships over to Africa for this Christian nation. Think about that. Christians sent slave ships to Africa. But, you know, I never hear Satan get called evil because he brought slavery to America, the New World. Why did they ever, And then the humanist part is just simply that. I am a humanist. I am pro-human. I am an advocate for human beings. We're only here on earth a short period of time. Let's make it as, the best experience as possible for everybody. Everybody need food to eat. Everybody needs shelter. So let's make this existence on earth a human existence. One that doesn't descend into people not having food and shelter and kids not having education and everybody just not living the most full, complete human experience until we die as possible. So that's my satanic humanism.
I'm glad you brought up the issue of slavery there, Steve, because I feel like the as many problems as there are in America, if you go back far enough, there's really only 3 root causes. You're talking either racism, you're talking capitalism, and you're talking otherism, which I would say there's always a way to, like, the people in charge find a way to pit people against each other. You know what I mean? And so
trifecta there. That's the trifecta.
And like, if you can keep people divided, you can keep people in their place, so to speak, if you're looking at it from a governmental aspect. And so I guess that would be my next question, Jason. Like, when you look at kind of the way that we interact with each other, with the way that people solve problems in this country. I heard you talk about, wanting to make the world a better place, doing good without God. And what are some of the issues that you find yourself kind of running up against when dealing with people who are religious? And I will make a distinction early on between being spiritual and being religious, because I do think there's a difference. But what would you say, Jason, to some of the issues that you faced?
Okay, so I think it would be a mistake painting running up to people who are religious with such a broad brush, because we can talk about Methodists. Most Methodists are very progressive.
Mm-hmm.
They have this higher idea of working together for the good of the community, for the sake of the community, where the Ten Commandments is a social contract, where it's you with the entire community, like the Methodists in the 1960s promoting the hell out of birth control so women could have more agency. But we also look at groups like evangelicals, on the other hand, who are inherently a selfish bunch. Evangelicals see the world as God in themselves.
Particularly over the last 4 years, where that's been intertwined with politics to a
if you
higher
go to an
degree.
evangelical service, what do you see? You see this contrived, choreographed, emotional display of narcissism, where it's, I have a personal relationship with my Savior, and I'm going to say how horrible I've been. And then all of a sudden, God's going to forgive me so I can go back into the world and be selfish. And I'm adding this aspect of selfishness because it's not merely a matter of something that organic that arrived out of the evangelical church. I like to recommend a lot of books, and one is a book by a Princeton historian, Kevin Kruse, One Nation Under God, How Corporate America Created Christian America. And after the social gospel of the 1930s, where the government was a tool used to uplift everyone, all boats float higher in a rising tide, the American Manufacturing Association, et cetera, sought to bust unions. And so they went through the evangelical churches, and they created the spirit of individualism, which beforehand the idea was to take care of the poor. You know, we get Social Security, for example, but then all of a sudden, what does it become? Well, you're giving a man a fish. You have to teach a man to fish so they can pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and it becomes nothing but people who have been exploited, advocating for the predators who have exploited them, the affluent. And so looking at this, and I'm throwing a lot of information here because I could talk about this for hours, but it's this difference. It's not all religious people. It's religious people who have a strong drive towards individualism. And one thing about humanists are not individualists. We support and cherish the individual and the dignity of the individual, but we eschew and we hate individualism. Individualism is just the celebration of selfishness. And so it's this foundational base this arises from. So when we look at all sorts of things out there, what do we see? We see climate change. This is something. Climate change is something that we run into a lot with the evangelical community. You know, we can go back to Interior Secretary Watt under the Reagan administration, who I believe said something to the effect of, oh, we don't have to worry about global warming because God said he wouldn't flood the world again. We look at things such, and right now, this is incredibly important, especially because why are we all separate today? Because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And it's because you have people who are all, once we get some herd immunity, you still have people who say they're not going to get vaccinated. And you have people who are anti-vaccine. Not just that, but the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. You also have people who, the interesting thing is when you come up against evangelical forms, conservative, reactionary evangelical forms of religion, they always adopt the custodianship. They always usurp the custodianship over certain concepts. Like in Islam, for example, you see peace and justice. In Christianity, the evangelicals, there's two words, and you can see it through the religious right, through all these contrived organizations that they come up with to promote hate and division. You see morality and family, and this individualized thing where these people eschew social scientific research, they eschew love and caring, and they adopt these ideas of restrictive morality and family. So what do we see? We see people out there still pushing laws to prevent gay and lesbian couples from adopting kids. We see these people out there right now. There's a whole thing called Project Blitz. And what do we see them doing right now? We see them putting these religious liberty bills out in what, 30 to 35 state legislatures, so they can say, look, if we're religious and we're against somebody else's behavior, we as individuals running businesses, we can sidestep civil rights law. And it's not just for gays and lesbians. We even, and this is a judge, mind you, and I believe this was either in Arkansas or Alabama, you know, take your pick, because basically the particular political mindset is still 300 years behind the time in both of those states. But we had a judge who was refusing to marry an interracial couple because their kids might have problems socially. So it's not just gays and lesbians. You can take anything out of the book that says don't sow your field with crops of two different types, don't wear a garment of two different fabrics, and oh well, we can't have an interracial couple getting married. I'm a judge, I won't sign a marriage license for you. And then we have Kim Davis, and what was she in? Kentucky. Oh, I'm a county clerk. My job is to extend marriage licenses to eligible couples, but I don't like you. I don't find personally you as a gay couple eligible, so you're not going to get that. And I believe the person who, if I remember correctly, I might be wrong, the person who she denied a marriage license to ran against her. I think he won in the next election. And so it's just like this. It's the difference between communitarian religion that tends to be more secular, because this is the idea that we're in a pluralistic society, an individualist religion that says my own personal moral righteous indignation trumps. I mean, that's that, you know, like the word when you're mad at someone, you call them a dick. It's like that came from Richard Nixon. So Trump, like that, I guess saying in this context takes on that particular philological Dick Nixon type of thing. But it just trumps being a responsible member of society. And that's what it is. You know what? When it boils right down to it, that's the difference. When you have religious people or atheists or whoever who are communitarian, who see that everyone belongs in society, and I'm going to fight for your right to have dignity, for your dignity, not to have dignity, for your dignity to be recognized, so you can have a full social life. I'm going to fight alongside you for that. That's great. But when we're talking about
hold it, thoughts. Sorry to interrupt. Just because you are going too fast, and it makes us like too difficult to follow through that. So Melissa,
I got on a roll. I'm sorry.
I'll be the devil's advocate here. Like I'll stop you or I'll mute you. And Melissa, you want to ask any question, you can go ahead. Before that, like I just want to start with Steve. He has come with a fire, and he said like Satan is a humanist, right? So that sounds like you still believe in devil. Is that what you are saying? And for me, right, there are only two sectors, right? Religion and non-religion. If you are a religious people, you can club together with any religion and defend yourself. And no religion in the sense like atheist, right? You are not believing in any of those gods. So why do you like bring in the middle path, saying that, oh, I'm a humanist, I'm a skeptic, I'm a free thinker? All these labels are still, right? We are the humans who are trying to have this problem. And you are saying that like you are a Satanist humanist, like that is one more layer of stupidity for me as an atheist. So do you have to defend that, or what is your take on that?
This is my take on that. I'm a Satanist, a humanistic Satanist. I mean, I don't believe in the devil as much as I don't believe in God. I'm trolling. I mean, I've had this argument on Facebook for like 8 years. Well, if you're not a Satanist, if you're a Satanist, that means you believe in that. No, I don't believe in a fucking devil. It's simple. I don't.
Isn't that what it is?
I do that so people who are religious can have a reference point. Because as soon as you say Satan, the devil, they got a reference point. And ooh, evil, bad, mean, bad man. Now they got a reference point. Now you can have a conversation. Now you can communicate. It's a conduit, actually, to bring forth communication to people who, if you tell them you're an atheist, they can't even fathom it. I've had people ask me, yell at me, scream at me, you do believe in God. I'm like, how the fuck are you gonna tell me what I believe in? Who the fuck are you to tell me who I believe in? Black people on the basketball court specifically had a brother scream at me, you do believe in God. And I'm like, well, I'll be damned. I mean, yeah, so, you know.
So are you saying that you are a Satanist to put it out there, but you actually
put it out?
Yes.
To put it out there. I want people to know right off the bat where I stand. No ambiguity, Satanist. Oh shit, you know, let me grab my purse. It's time to go.
So then when you came in here, you didn't introduce yourself as an atheist. Like you know, it took for, you know, JK to say, why are you a, you know, Satanist? So no, the confusion comes with that, you know, yeah, so.
Of course. I mean, people mind, you know, they conjure up all kinds of evil images, but did Jason explain to you guys that I do public speaking and stand-up comedy?
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you can catch me at hey, as soon as these clubs open back up, you can catch me at the Comedy Store in Hollywood, beautiful downtown Hollywood, California is my favorite place to perform, the main room at the Comedy Store. Catch me there, because I'm gonna have a lot of shit to say.
So that's, look, that is getting back to, you know, the idea of the titling, the labeling, Melissa. Like, that is very effective, because, you know, when Steve first came on, like, again, like, my first reaction was, okay, Satanist, like, okay, I don't even have no sage on me right now, but let's keep the show rolling. Let's keep it moving. But like, again, like, it's a way to get conversation and elicit a reaction. And so, like, I see where you're coming from on that level. But again, like, I do have a question in terms of, you know, being Black, because there is this, I think there's something unique with the relationship between religion and Black folk in a way that it differs from our Caucasian brothers and sisters in a way, because it's so ingrained in a lot of our community. So, like, how do you feel that religion has either, you know, helped or, you know, maybe, like, to your point, been a detriment to the Black community over the years?
Religion has been used. I mean, religion is basically, from my perspective, is utilized to take advantage of the weak and the vulnerable. And in America, especially as an African American, as a Black man, you're weak and vulnerable because you don't have an economic base to support your entire community. So you're already right there in the hole. So when our Black parents start using Satan and the devil, and you all know we're exposed to that shit, as soon as we can speak English, they start telling you stories about the devil. That mentally fucks us up. And it goes throughout our lives unless you can come to some kind of realization that religion is basically a joke. And I did that a long time ago. I was about 8 years old.
I was going to ask that, you know, when did you, like, start to decide, like, were you raised Christian or were you, you know, raised a atheist, or how did you come about this?
Baptist. Baptist. I remember being baptized, and it was just a harrowing experience, because, like most Black parents back then, this was like in '68. My mother didn't explain what was getting ready to go down. I thought these fools was trying to drown me.
It is a scary experience.
And it was scary, you know, everybody wrapped up in white sheets getting ready to get in this tank of water. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And they didn't explain it to me. But yeah, I was baptized and all of this, and, you know, but I never believed none of it. From 8 years old, I was given a poem to read in church, a 3-line poem. And that's when I first came to the realization that I'm not into this. This is like nothing. This is like voodoo, witchcraft, some bullshit. And never been religious all my life. It's just inherent in me. I'm born like this.
I got one quick question for you, Steve, before we bring Ash back into the conversation. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I think you're bringing up a lot of valid points, but what if I was to say, in terms of a counter argument, to play devil's advocate, if you will, the effect of the church and the Black community in terms of, like, you know, social programs and help welfare and souls to the polls and organizing voting and things like that. What's your take on that in terms of being beneficial to the community?
Yeah, my take on that is Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King is my idol. He gave his life for this shit that I believe in. He gave his life. So I'm not speaking in generalization saying that all religion is bad. I just hate when people take advantage of the weak and the vulnerable. Martin Luther King was bad, man. When he started talking about economics and the Vietnam War, and I had a brother in Vietnam. When he started talking about that, that's what got him killed. Think about that. In a Christian nation, they're gonna kill a reverend. Think about that. It's insanity. But yeah, hey, church, it's ruining us. We'll never fulfill our destiny worshiping the same God of the people who used to enslave us. It's asinine.
And also, what was the full name of the March for Equality? What was the full name of the March for Equality? It was the March for Equality and Jobs.
Yeah.
It was about social and economic justice. You can't have social justice without economic justice.
Right.
One of the organizers for the march was A. Philip Randolph, who was a humanist, and a couple of things came to mind about Dr. King. Dr. King said something. If there are quotes that need to be memorized because they encapsulate so much, if there were 20 quotes to say what truly is happening in this country, Dr. King said one of them. It wasn't "I have a dream," it was about the most segregated hour in America. Do you know what Dr. King said the most segregated hour in America was?
Yeah, church.
Sunday morning, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, didn't he write that in the Birmingham jail letter? Was that in there?
I believe so. And about Satan, so there's two groups, two primary groups. There's, oh, and by the way, one of our friends, Jeremiah Kamara, did a documentary that you guys should check out too, and Steve might bring that up in a bit.
I'll send you a copy.
And so a couple of things to think about. Back in the 70s when Anton LaVey started the Church of Satan, because there's now the Satanic Temple, which is a church and state advocacy group. Basically, their thing is, you say you can have a 10 Commandments statue because we have a pluralistic Capitol grounds. Well, we're going to put up a statue of the devil right next to it. And if you don't like religious pluralism, you can't have your 10 Commandments statue. But Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, he took this more of a libertarian precept from the narrative character of Lucifer. And like Steve has mentioned, the devil hasn't come back and the devil hasn't defended himself. And as we can look at religions, we see that Islam came out of Christianity, which came out of Judaism, because if Muhammad didn't go to Khadijah and then they went to go discuss seeing Jibril or Gabriel fill the sky when Muhammad was in a cave, then not going to a Syriac Christian would have probably cut off Islam at the roots, and Muhammad would have just been hallucinating in his cave. But looking at this, all these stories go back. Religion just keeps perpetuating itself. It's called syncretism. And we look at the Greek and Roman tales of Prometheus, and Prometheus was this figure that brought knowledge to human beings. This revolutionary figure that brought knowledge to human beings. Prometheus took a piece of his brain and he gave it to human beings. And he was punished and he was chained to a rock. So every day an eagle would come and eat out a third of his liver. And with Christianity, we look at the serpent in the garden. And what did the serpent do? The serpent tempted Eve, and by a lesser extent in the book, Adam, to eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. What kind of God would not want us to have knowledge, would not want us to be aware of good and evil? What kind of God? That sounds like a God that thinks so lowly of its creatures that it doesn't merit worship. And yeah, the Black church has been a great nexus to organize. But I would say from any group of people experiencing outrageous and atrocious atrocities and brutalizations would gather around anything that they can find to get together to organize, to fight back. For example, while the church was used as the moral oxygen to keep slavery alive, yes, slavery had its commercial applications, and still today. I mean, slavery didn't go away with the 13th Amendment in the United States. We have 1 out of 200 people on this planet enslaved currently today. 45 million people are currently enslaved around the planet, and that has very little to do with religion. But you better believe that the white slaveholders looked at the Bible for the moral oxygen on this. The devil didn't do this. The devil didn't make them do it. What did they look at? They looked at the mark of Cain. And the mark of Cain wasn't just in religion in the United States, the source of just slavery. We look at until 1978, and I have a problem with the fact that if you're going to be Mormon and you're a woman, that you don't have an eligibility to be in the clergy. I mean, you should reconsider your situation at that. But until 1978, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints said that Black men could not be priests in the Mormon church because their dark skin bore the mark of Cain. And then we look at the book of Genesis, where the 3 sons of Noah, one of them glimpsed over and saw their father naked. And then they said, oh, you're going to be your brother's servant from here forward, just because he accidentally saw his father's naked body. And so those 2 sources in the Old Testament, don't just think that Jesus just came to bring love, because in the New Testament, Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the laws, but fulfill the laws. And we look at Ephesians, where Paul writes that slaves should bow before their masters. And at the same time, well, this isn't about every Black person. This is also about women. Women need to submit yourselves before your husbands. Any book, any religion, any philosophy that says that you have to be lesser than someone else and you have to submit yourself to someone else because they're in a socially elevated position to you. And it's not that, it's and also Nate, you brought about economic justice earlier in capitalism.
Yeah.
Look at how people bow before rich people in this country. It's this idea of bowing before our quote unquote social betters. And, we're talking about slavery today, and we're also talking about race and class. Another news story is of this big fabrication that's still going on today of the royal family. And look at what happened there, where Meghan Markle said there was a conversation saying, oh, we're concerned how dark your baby's skin is going to be. This is aggravating.
to say that.
Jason, hold on that. Like, I think we, as you mentioned, right, the conversation will go on and on. And let's hear like each one of us. Like Ashwak, do you want? You have been quiet for some time because I thought like you will be provoked and you will be the only one who has to defend the Islam here. And as a journalist, you will have more questions and viewpoint. Can you come on? Unmute and say like what God means to you and how are you going to defend your religion as such. You don't have to.
I'm just trying to understand what is going on here right now. So, so we have a satanic humanist. We have a the real humanist. So I'm
the real human.
yeah.
The
That's
OG
why they're
humanist.
podcasts.
No, I do. Nobody is no. I don't think anybody is talking about Islam or any particular religion. So they are talking about. I can say any religion. So Islam is. I hope Islam is not at the receiving end. So they are talking about the religion in general. I guess. So I think I do not have to defend Islam in first place. But as far as my idea of believing in God is concerned, so I don't know how do I explain it to all of you. How do I back, if I say I believe in Allah, or if I believe in Prophet Muhammad and I believe in Jesus Christ also. So I don't know how do I should explain this to all of you guys. So maybe, like as we move ahead in our conversation, then I think I'll be able to put forward my points. But let me have some more talks. Like let me listen to some more conversations like that the you guys are having. Hopefully I'll be able to talk at that point of time.
So I have a question, since we're talking about race and religion. Well, Islam is supposed to be this great levelizing force to bring all people before the one true God. There are, and you don't have to address this if you don't want to, but just your thoughts on this, that a lot of African Muslims bring up the fact that when they go on the Hajj, they see racism in Mecca.
Like I don't understand. Like you are saying some people in Africa, when they go to Mecca for Hajj, for performing Hajj, so do you want to say they claim that they face racism over there?
Yes, there are accounts where people feel dissatisfied, saying that they feel that there's a sense of exclusion and social hierarchy because of the color of their skin when they go on the Hajj. This is purely anecdotal, and so I was just wondering if you've heard any of this, if you have any thoughts on this.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, I don't know. As far as the ground reality is concerned, I am not aware of that. Like, I have never been to Makkah. See, I have a dream that one day I will go and I do the Hajj, but I do not know the ground reality. So I cannot comment on that. But I can claim one thing. I can give you an example. Prophet Muhammad he has been the first personality in history of mankind, who was against racism. You will never see not a single personality in the history of mankind who was so equivocal and who was so against racism. There was this black man, his name was Bilal. Do you know history of Islam? There was one black man, his name was Bilal, and Prophet Muhammad said, like referring to this person Bilal, I think he was from Tunisia or some African country. So he has said one very historical statement, like no black person is above a white person, and similarly no white person is above any black person. And having said that, neither a white person is very close to the God, nor a black person is very close to the God. You know who is very close to the God? Who is very virtuous. So if you are virtuous, if you are doing good things, then you are close to the God. So I don't know whether I'm able to explain all these things to you clearly or not. But I'm saying Prophet Muhammad was the first person in the history of mankind who spoke against racism. If you do a Google search, or if you try to do a little research and find out some book, then I'm sure you will be able to find this out. You will get that. And he talking about that person Bilal, Prophet Muhammad said that in the Jannah, when people will be in Jannah, so this person will be very close to him. And all these things which I am saying, they are genuine. Like I'm not saying any fake story, or something which is not not verified. I am telling you the verified things. So you can cross check what I am saying right now.
Yeah, Ashfaq, I appreciate that. We can do that. But apart from those scriptures and all those religions claiming that like mine is the truth and this is the ultimate God, all those things, right? For me, it's as simple, right? It's the mob mentality. The more crowd it is, more popular it is, and that becomes the truth. And they just ultimately ignored all the other practices, right? The old tradition. I don't know. I was trying to invite one other group, like black non-believers. She is one popular lady over there. I was trying to bring them in, and also Jason might know. I was trying to get hold of AC. What's that?
Mandisa Thomas.
Yes, Mandisa Thomas, and also Matt Delahanty, and also others like from other religions, right? British spoiled everything, like back in India. I don't know whether Ashfaq will accept that. The Muslims and then like the Christians tried to spoil as much, and they ganged up everything like together, all the practices as Hinduism, which I myself like not. I'm an atheist, right? So that's why I put up that strong word. There is no God, there is no God, there is no God at all. He who invented God is a fool, and he who worships God is a barbarian. So strong word to defend my not a belief. It's like argument saying that atheism is like no God at all. So that's an invention by humans. We evolved and we just started building up things, and discrimination and racism is going to be there forever, right? For God's sake, like, don't say like we can get rid of those things. No, we cannot. So and to answer to Jason's question, definitely if you are in Middle East, you can know how the Arabs treat the Indians. They treat us, look at us as a subhumans, right? They'll say like go on the side. Even in the airport itself, you can feel the discrimination. And there won't be any surprise for you, Ashfaq, if you go to Mecca.
At this point, can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
If somebody if somebody is doing something in Middle East, or somebody is doing something in Africa or in Europe or in America, so this is their own fault. So what I am trying to say, what I'm trying to tell you here is, suppose some socially bad thing is happening in America, or some socially bad thing is happening in any other part of the world. It could be the Far East, it could be Japan, or it could be India, maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe France. So what I mean to say here is it is the fault of the people who are staying over there right now. And what in the current situation, what I have learned, people who are at fault, they are at fault because they are following the distorted form of religion. I'm not saying Islam or Christianity. So because they are following, or they are observing the distorted form of religion, then all the troubles begin. So this is what I am trying to, this is what I want to tell you.
Okay. See, all right, I'm gonna take that as fact. Like we running a fast break. You Anthony Davis. You gave me the outlet pass. I'm LeBron. I'm gonna bring this. So I'm gonna bring this to Jason and Steve.
Yeah,
Because I feel like it ties back into what I was saying earlier, where just speaking for myself personally, I wouldn't classify myself as religious, but I am spiritual. I grew up in a Christian home. I do have a relationship with God, at least to whatever degree you would want to classify that. But when I hear people talk about religion, it always brings me back to Men in Black, the first one, where Will Smith has that conversation on the bench with Tommy Lee Jones. And he's like, why can't we tell this to the people? People are smart. And Tommy Lee Jones says a person is smart. People are irrational. People are scared. People can get into that group think. And I feel like anytime, like whether you're talking about, the evangelicals, particularly over the last 4 years, or, some of these groups that are extreme in their thoughts, when you're talking about religion, I think I can at least make the distinction, and maybe you guys think I'm out to lunch, but I think I can make the distinction between a personal relationship and a personal way I live my life versus these are the rules that the Mormon Church has set up, or these are the rules that the Southern Baptist Convention has set up. So what would be you guys' take on that?
Okay, so I want to address a couple things. Number one, we don't know if Muhammad was the first person to say to stand against racism, because there were billions of people who lived before Muhammad, and writing is sort of a newer invention in humankind. And at the same time, it seems as though you have to have this concept of being a chosen people and some kind of primacy of your group against other groups in terms of the characteristics that make you, in order to have that idea that you're going to stand against that idea. So if you don't have an idea that your group is superior to other groups, then Muhammad may be unique in terms of organized literature and seeing that as someone who may seem revolutionary in that concept. But there were lots of people before Muhammad that didn't even have that concept because they didn't have this idea that their group was better. The Abrahamic religions cause a lot of problems by the idea of some kind of chauvinism, exclusivity, and superiority. For example, we can look at Sumeria, and gods were localized to towns. And when you came to that town, you paid homage to that god through money or trinkets or whatnot. You didn't have this idea that our group is superior to that group and our God is better than that God. And when we look at the Greeks writing about religion in that, we don't see the Greeks saying, oh, look at the Ethiopians, the Greeks are far better. Their commentary that we see is something to the effect of, well, the gods of the Greeks have bronze skin, the gods of the Ethiopians have dark skin. So just because Muhammad made one little notion doesn't mean that he had this original thought that all people were equal. Probably quite the opposite. And if Muhammad said it, there were probably lots and lots of other people saying it, because, to throw in a little Shakespeare, there's nothing new under the sun. And also, while people cherish their religious backgrounds and their traditions, it's just such a cop-out to say that they're not following the one true path. You could say there's a one true path for a lot of things, and human beings screw it up, and that you can't blame a religion by the acts of human beings. But I say you can, because you don't have religion without human beings. Not only do you not have religion without human beings, for example, how many people out there are worshiping Mithras? How many people in the cult of Mithras are out there? So is there a one true Mithral religion? Well, no. Mithras and the Mithral religion are a construct of a certain group of people that take custodianship over a particular point of time. And you can say, oh, this is what the religion is. But if it's a long running religion, you have to look at it and say, this is how this religion manifested itself. It's not independent of the people involved in the religion. It's a product of the people involved in that religion. And if that's how the people who are religious, who are using their religion are manifesting it, that's what that religion is at that point in time.
And in terms of that, like what how would you respond to, you know, the point that I had brought up, Steve, in terms of the individual versus the collective when it comes to looking at these things?
Like the allegoric approach, like groupthink.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the power, and that's the power, and also the insanity of believing in something like an ancient relic, like the Bible. It's like this is just a tool to control the people. That's all it is. I mean, this is some prehistoric. I mean, come on, this is 2021. We still can't get our literature right, our curriculum right in schools today. How are you gonna believe some bullshit that was written centuries ago? It's like the longest game of telephone. Everybody knows the telephone game. It's like, how are you gonna believe this bullshit to come out the end? It's been rewritten, written, reinterpreted by kings, queens, people in power. Oh, this is what it means to me. I mean, I sit here and I listen to Jason, and he's like my friend Jeremiah Kamara. They have all of this knowledge into their head like a computer about what's in this ancient ass book. I'm like, why are you giving it so much validity? How do you know that shit is even true? And how could it be true? You know, think it, like Jason was talking about earlier, Leviticus. Oh, don't mix your plaids with your solids and shit like that.
Don't wear white after Labor Day.
Yeah, it's like, come on,
I mean, to be fair, that is solid fashion advice.
Yeah, I'm sure we must have looked real good coming off those slave ships.
Yeah.
We had a 3-piece chain set. Oh, look at me.
Steve, on that quick note, right? I mean, except I don't know, Melissa's kind of stunned and shocked, and Ashwag is a strong Islamic believer. Other than that, like Nate mentioned, he's spiritual, and we don't have a strong religious believer or person who defends. Like I had a conversation with one other person who's a Christian, and when I used the word nonsense, he got offended. And how can you say that? Like, and he was so pissed off and mad. And I said, like, nonsense is a polite word. If you want me to use the word, other things, like, you'll be thrown off. So my question, right, as to each one of you is like, why are the religious victims, right? There are so many victims in religious cult and other things who have gone through so much trauma and suffering. They still believe in God. What do you have to say to them?
Fear of dying. All of this shit is about fear of dying. I'm an atheist. When it's over, it's over. The split second after you're dead, you don't even know you're dead. And this is all about, to me, the fear of dying.
Wow. Jason, your take on that?
Well, Steve is correct to a large degree. It's conditioning. It's conditioning. You know, the whole like Pavlovian classical conditioning. You ring the bell, the dog drools, but it's that's completely oversimplified. But if you in like daily affirmations too, of saying positive thoughts to elevate your mood over time, or doing cognitive behavioral therapy, you condition yourself to see the world through particular lenses. It's not just you conditioning yourself. You get feedback, and you find people who are authority figures that you can trust, and it helps sculpt the world around you. And you can't know yourself without knowing how the world around you reacts to you. And over time, just getting socialized and getting cognitively trained in a particular manner, even if you leave a particular social structure, you still have that cognitive programming. So it's there. It's not a matter. I don't think it's a matter of choice. Not at all. You're just so So how many false ideas do we have in our heads, that our parents put in there? Even as a kid, do you ever avoid a crack in the sidewalk because you're afraid that your mother's going to have a broken lumbar spine? Have you ever freaked out about walking under an umbrella or walking under a ladder, opening an umbrella indoors? Have you ever thought, oh shit, I just broke that mirror, the next 7 years is going to kind of be iffy for me? Like I said, this is all completely oversimplified, but everyone has cognitive programming. Everybody has most people, unless you have some kind of brain deformation, but you have cognitive programming. And there's that saying, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. You just can't get rid of things overnight. And if where I'm at in my life, the whole live and let live thing, if it's not hard, if there's certain things in their religious mindset that are causing positive pro-social behavior, being good, donating to charity, volunteering, helping out for the sake of helping out, good. But this is a little off topic, but if there's that cognitive programming and being in some kind of restrictive religious environment that's still causing an adversive affect in your daily life, where it's causing anxiety, depression, inhibiting forming healthy, healthy, consensual, nurturing relationships with other people, then that's problematic. And like I said earlier about being communitarian, and I'm sure like Nate brought up the more communitarian aspects of the Black church, it's contingent upon all of us to help each other out. If somebody is suffering, we need to step up to help them out. And one other quick, I don't want to be cynical, but with the Black church, tell me about the experience of LGBT people in the Black church. Tell me about that.
And I think, speaking to that, I think that there are fundamental issues in religion, but there's also fundamental issues with human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can separate one from the other. And I would say, when you talk about the treatment of LGBTQ folks within the Black church, within the Black community at large, if we're being real with it, I think that's been something that's been sorely lacking over the years. I think the thing that kind of tying what you're saying and also what JK was asking about earlier in terms of defending your religion. To me, I don't feel a need to get on a soapbox and defend Christianity. That's not what I'm paid to do, right? That's not in my job description. My job description, the way I kind of think about my faith is I need to be the best version of me that I can, and that includes being the best version of me to the community, those around me, those in need, and so on and so forth. I think, though, one thing that I've found disturbing, and maybe it's just, I grew up in the in a military family, so I've been kind of all around and been able to see not only different cultures, but religion being reflected differently by different groups, in Japan, Mexico, north, south, east, west, been all over. And one of the things that I think has kind of disappointed me, I guess that'll be the word I'll use, is the last 4 years in particular, where so many friends I grew up with, in the South, in Virginia, in Georgia, have let politics trump, and I'm using that word pointedly, had let politics trump their belief system. And so when you get to this place where you've got a party taking over a religion and vice versa, it's the effects have been harmful. Melissa, what has been kind of your experience with religion, with faith, with the way that it all kind of intertwines with politics, culture over the last few years?
It's been an interesting journey. I know, especially in the past year alone, I didn't really get into politics or religion. That's not something I like to really even talk about too much the past 4 years because, I didn't like the answers that I was getting, especially 2016. I was surprised by the answers I was getting. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just shut up, because
a lot of people told on themselves the last 4 years.
So I was like, I'm just gonna shut up. But you know, I had to sit by myself with myself over the past year. So I found out a lot about myself. And so, you know, I had to find out more about my, you know, I like how you say you're more spiritual than, you know, religious. So I got to know more about my spiritual side and more about my political standpoints and everything over the past, you know, since COVID started, really. So I've really been sitting here thinking about what I'm standing for, what I don't like, what I do like, what I'm not associating myself with anymore. And, you know, I'm really happy to be a part of Stop Now these days. It's really been a huge eye opener to a lot of different issues that I wouldn't have, you know, been able to, you know, I scrolling on, you know, social media, didn't see it like that. Definitely the, you know, human rights, you don't see it like that, you know, so yeah.
Well, I think like a good thing like with this, Melissa, like people don't have discussions anymore for the most part. They have confrontations, right? Like there's no dialogue, you know. And I think to what Steve was saying earlier, when he puts out that, you know, I'm a satanic humanist, I think like that immediately elicits a reaction, which is the desired effect that Steve is going for, because there's so many, like everybody wants to be in a camp these days. Everybody wants to be in a crew, and there's not the conversations that need to be had. And so with something like Stop Now, I feel like, yeah, at the end of the day, everybody's not going to agree 100%, but at least, you know, we're having that conversation, Steve. We're having that dialogue.
Absolutely.
Yes, Melissa, sorry, I put you on the spot. You are the Lone Ranger here. I wanted to have an equal representation of women as well, because they have been told for centuries by all the religions to shut up and stay at home. And that's where like the women are the power and who are still holding this religious group. Nate, to your point, because we are running out of time, we can maybe extend a few more minutes. And also if the guests don't mind, we can do it again at a later time with more interesting conversations. Nate, to your point, my thing is like, how is slavery is related to religion? Because if you look at it, like 1 billion people, right? Ashwa can subscribe to that. Indian subcontinent as such itself, it's made up of for centuries based on caste system, right? Which is most religion don't understand that. So you are born in a caste. You cannot get rid of that. You cannot change your religion. You can become a Muslim or anything else. But for us, right, Hindus can talk more about that, right? It is still prevalent over there. A person's name will be Jesus, and he will have a birth certificate which will say like he belongs to a caste and he's a Hindu, right? So can Jesus be a Hindu, or Allah be a Hindu? Right, so something like that. Like even if you change your hierarchy there, they will not accept that. So those are very strong things which we need to address it. So you can't say that like, oh, if you notice the ball game of all the religionists, now they are turning towards, oh, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. That is a whole load of crap, bullshit for me. The reason is they are playing that game over and over, right? So mesmerizing. And that is why I'm saying, like, if you are believing in something, you have to defend, because history tells us they invaded countries, waged wars, killed people, converted people. Even missionaries are out there who are doing the same thing. And if you are going to believe the same shit, for me, like, even if you are a good person, I will not trust you. The moment you say that, like, how I'm a good person, what defines you a good person?
And to that, Steve, I hear where you're coming from, JK. I'm getting everybody mixed up. I feel like you go by a person's actions, right? Like, don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. You can tell a lot more about a person by their works than by their words. And for so long with religion, you've had a lot of words, and not as much action. And so, yeah, like I would just say again for myself, like I'm not out here defending the entirety of religion through the entirety of time, but for myself, I believe in God. I'm a Christian. I grew up in a church, in a house with two parents that were very spiritual, and so that's just in my DNA, right? And I don't think there's ever going to be a time when that's not a part of me. Uh, the question is, though, whatever group you're a part of, do you subscribe to the negative aspects of that group, right? Like, are you out here restricting rights for women? Like I think it might have even been in Texas this week. There's a legislation that somebody put out trying to make abortion like punishable by the death penalty, which is ridiculous. Whether you're discriminating against LGBTQ folks, right? Like, your actions to me tell a lot more about the type of human you are, the type of individual you are, than your words. And so I guess, again, we're running low on time, but we can go around the horn really quickly. And we can start with Steve, because Steve is right below me, which I guess is fitting if we're using metaphoricals right here. Because Steve, when again, like when you're talking about kind of all this stuff and slavery and the capitalism and a lot of this stuff, like I don't want to be too flip about it. I don't want to be too jokey about it. I don't want to step into your territory and your lane. But when I look back at history, like it's a lot of people in power, particularly white people in power, let's be real, that are either subjugating people or dividing and conquering. And that extends to business, that extends to politics, and of course it extends to religion as well. So as we kind of wrap up this week, what are kind of your one or two final thoughts on this, brother?
Man, well, for one, Nate, I want to hear a little bit more about your personal relationship you have with Jesus. That has stoked my curiosity, just because you're telling me you have a relationship with somebody you've never seen before. And it just piques my curiosity.
Okay, well, real quick, like not to get super deep into it, but for me, like, I pray, I meditate, I just kind of give myself time to kind of back away, especially like this last year where everything's so crazy and the world is different than we've ever seen it before. Like, I need time to recharge my battery, right? And for me, that's prayer. For me, that's, listening to gospel music. That's not the only music I listen to, but there are times when I need to kind of center myself, I guess you could say. And that's part of the process of me kind of finding peace and not making sense of the world, because you can't make sense of this world, but at least making sense of my day. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting.
Hey, look, like you said off the top, like I grew up, like my dad is or formerly was a Navy chaplain. Now he's a counselor. He does therapy sessions and whatnot. So like all this stuff, Steve, like just the idea of mindfulness, which I don't think was something that a lot of Black people were talking about, particularly, when I was growing up, and mental health and stuff like that. Like that stuff's always kind of been just in our family. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Can I just ask you one thing? Has any of your prayers been answered? Can you say that with any true validity, any proof that any of your prayers that you've prayed, because you said you're a praying man and you pray, have they been answered?
Yes. And well, here's the thing. Like if what you're asking is, has God ever or Jesus ever sent me like a text and like, this is directly what's happening as a result of your prayer?
Has he ever sent you $1,400? Has he ever sent you $1,400?
well, there's been times when I've been broke and I've been like, like God, like I just need to get through this day. I need to get to this next thing. I just need help. I need a little something. And that help has arrived, right? And so, I don't know if you can draw a correlation between that and that prayer, but there have been times where I've needed something, where I've been at a low point, and through that act of like meditation or prayer, whatever you want to categorize it, I have felt that my need was met.
Okay, now how do you know for sure that that need wasn't met by Satan?
Because I guess it comes down to faith. You know, faith is the evidence of things unseen, at least in my life. And so like I would choose to attribute that to God, but who knows? Like that's the thing. Like nobody knows exactly 100% what's going on in this world, right? What's above or below, if there's anything above or below.
Yeah, that's why we should just live with what's real. We're all here. We can touch each other. We can see each other. Our politics, our votes, our actions, our just getting up, going to work, raising our children, all that shit is real.
Yes.
And we treat each other like garbage and trash. But we believe in some kind of something out here that we ain't never seen before, but we're putting all our faith in it. I got my faith in you, Nate. That's what my damn faith is.
I appreciate that faith, brother. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But if that's what brings Nate's peace of mind, that's nothing wrong with that, because that's the same thing that I do. And I have a prayer journal, and I have many answered prayers, and, not everything gets answered, but, they do. So, the same, situation, it happens, just like that.
Okay.
Don't know that, he actually is real. Hope he is, but
hey,
I hope so.
if you can get me next week's mega numbers from him, I'm all for it.
I don't know about that, man. I hope your stimulus come, but
was it 35, 47? What was the number in there?
What about you, Aspect? What are your final thoughts today?
We should say a small prayer and then end this conversation.
So let the congregation say amen. Jason, last thoughts before we wrap things up this week.
A couple of quick thoughts about what Steve just said about, has God ever texted you personally? And what Nita said, like God calls you and says, yeah, do you have 5 minutes to take a satisfaction survey after this last prayer request? It almost seems like God is the type of person who would call you to talk about your extended car warranty.
Stay on the line 5 minutes to fill out a quick survey.
Thing, I don't want to come off as offensive by saying this, but for atheists, for people who don't believe in God, it's almost like saying you have a personal relationship with another celebrity. Like I have a like someone living in a trailer park somewhere, I have a personal relationship with Beyonce.
No, I want to ask you.
To be fair, you can have a personal relationship with Beyonce's music.
Exactly.
Can I ask? No, I want to ask one question to Jason.
Yeah.
And see, I do have a sense that like people who don't believe in any religion, so they connect or they relate all the miseries to religion. Isn't it so? Like they hold religion responsible for all the miseries. Isn't it so?
Okay, I would say that's a sweeping generalization right there. But as someone who's studied religion and politics, I have an advanced degree in political science, and one of my undergrad degrees is in religious studies. What I would say is that a lot of people who leave religion, they have a lot of anger. Granted, they have a lot of anger because they start noticing things that they were told exactly, like JK has right there. They see a lot of things that they were told as being true, but when they go out in the world around them and they meet other people and they get different perspectives, then they feel betrayed. They feel a great sense of betrayal, and you can't feel that level of betrayal unless it's the most fundamental truths of the world that you feel have been chipped away. I like to say, if you want to, there's no better way to become an atheist than to take a comparative religions course. And a lot of the problems on the planet around us today, not all of them, but the main ones people blame for in terms of discrimination, et cetera, a lot of the moral teachings that are the underpinnings for that come from religious institutions. So if that's the case, if you have people who feel betrayed by having having their worldview be undermined by seeing how much broader the world is, which it's a beautiful thing. It's like looking through a pinhole and then opening it up. You know, like, of course, from India, there's that parable about the blind wise people and the elephant, where there are different parts of the elephant describing what truth is like. One person's holding the ear and says it's the wing of a great bird. One person's touching the trunk and saying it's a snake, etc., etc. But when you feel this great story of how the world works, of how you base your life and how you're acting based upon this worldview, and you find that it's not true, you feel betrayed. And like I said, with that anger of betrayal, you see, well, this wasn't true, and they say that sex is sinful, and masturbation is neither going to make me go blind, and I'm not going to hell. And how many years of pleasure did I miss, or you know, et cetera, et cetera. That's just one example. Yeah, then people might be angry at religion. They might blame religion for a lot, but a person's blame, or a person's thoughts are their own thoughts. It doesn't mean religion's bad. It doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It doesn't mean God does exist. You know, like I guess I'll wrap it up with this, because I have so much I want to say, and it's hard to constrain it in just one small little jar.
We'll definitely have to do a part two.
But there's this writer named Fran Lebowitz, and she's written for 40 years, you know, or 50 years, and she says people get mad at her. They get mad at her because of her opinions, and she says, who cares? It doesn't matter. My opinions don't matter. I don't write the laws. So if someone gets angry with the religion, my watch is talking back. But you know, if people are angry at religion, then they personally are angry at religion. If someone believes in God, Allah, or Vishnu, etc., or they're a Buddhist, that's their thing. They don't write the laws. The problem is when those people who believe in those things write the laws, and they write the laws that are applicable for other people. So right then and there, it doesn't matter if I don't like religion, or I'm angry with religion, or I love religion personally. It's the problem comes when I insert my own religious predilections before the behavior and the comfort of other people. That's the problem. And that's where this amounts to. And I'll leave you on this. Because I know the topic, and we had a lot of mission creep in our conversation, which, you know, is great, because topics are a jumping off point, and Steve and Ashfaq and Nate and JK and Melissa, we were all totally engaged with this, and we found really important points to cover with this. One thing to think about, and it's our capacity to do better. This goes back to the 1960s. And there was a couple who was living in Virginia, Richard and Mildred Loving. Mildred was Black, Richard was white. It was illegal for them to get married in Virginia. Not only was it illegal for them to get married in Virginia, but it was illegal for them to be married in Virginia. And they went across the state border to Maryland. They got married, and the cops broke down their door in the middle of the night because they found out that they were married. They were criminals for being married. And they were told in the first case that they could either divorce or leave Virginia for 25 years, and they didn't do that. And in that case, the judge cited an old precedent, and this was in the 1960s. This judge cited this precedent from 1924 that said that God made the 5 races, white, yellow, black, red, and brown, and put us on our each distinct continents, and if not for our interference, such marriages would not be necessary. And you know what happened? Yeah, religion has done a lot of good, but also religion has done a lot of bad. And the bad that religion has done still infiltrates today. And the good that religion does infiltrates today. But what happened was those people who put their religious predilections that separated people into the laws found them abrogated and evaporated in 1967 when the US Supreme Court took up that case and they struck down anti-miscegenation laws. And that is, to tie it together, that is our commitment. Our commitment is to other people. Our commitment is to humanity, regardless of what religion we come from. And while there are bad things that stem from religion that hold us back, regardless if we're Christian, Buddhist, Muslim, Hindu, etc., it's our shared responsibility and shared commitment to work together to eradicate the things of the past that hold us back, realizing that we do have a future, but only if we work together.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, Melissa, that's the important thing, is that we are working to move forward together, you know. And like if we were a football team, Melissa, and Jason wanted to run the Wildcat offense, and I wanted to run the run and shoot. Steve wants to run, you know, a run-based offense. You out here with the West Coast offense, and Ashfaq, you know, he trying to run his own unique offense that he came up with himself, like, because he's a genius like that. As long as we moving the ball forward and trying to score the same common goal, which in this case is, you know, doing social good, right? Which is taking down a lot of these barriers that have been placed up by these institutions over the years. Like, I think we can have differing opinions, but still be on the same page together.
Absolutely, Nate. I was not on that page with you, though. I don't know what any of that meant because I don't watch football. But
I've been playing a lot of Madden with my little cousin lately, so I'm just, all these playbooks is in my mind right now, Melissa.
I keep telling you, I don't know what that means.
that was yeah, that was really wonderful, Jason and Steve. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you guys. I really appreciate that. Ashfaq, thanks for bringing that up as well, because there is more conversations and thoughts coming up. And to for answer you, Ashfaq, we have the prayer invocation is there. You can read it out.
No, you are imposing your thoughts on me by, you know.
No, I'm not. It's not. Definitely not. It's not my thought, and it's not I'm prescribing to it. You know that I'm from South and you are from North, and North Indians have vengeance on the South Indians. So he's a most prolific social justice reformer in South India, and you know that better. And that's why I like this. That's all. So I'm not advocating this, but it's good to enlighten people with these words, make them realize, understand what mistakes we are doing. To that point, I will wrap up this call. And what Jason told us about the story, right, which is still prevalent in other parts of the world, right, even in India, right, even in Islam, right, if you are going to marry a person, the person has to get converted to Islam, then only they can marry. Don't you know that, right?
Yeah.
So what the fuck is that, right? You are infringing on the person's belief system to get married. That itself a crime, right? Don't tell me. And even in Hinduism or the caste system, caste-based thing, right? If you marry a lower caste people, still on 2020, people are killing each other. You know that as a journalist. You have reported those things. It is so wide prevalent, right? Even for the same religion, if you marry a lower caste person, they hunt you down and kill each other so brutally in this 21st century. And you are still defending on religion. That is what hurts people. That is why we attribute all the miseries to the religion. The root cause is the religion that we all, while evolving, mistakenly made that mistake and carrying that burden.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget about the BJP and the Citizenship Amendment Act and the National Citizenship Registry, where the government of India went from secular democratic to Hindu nationalist basically overnight. And now a lot of poor Muslims across the country don't have the paperwork to prove that they're Indian citizens. And there is a potential for the construction of concentration camps to put Muslims in India. And that, you know, this would be a great topic for another day. But, you know, I'm not just criticizing religious people. I will also rally to the defense of religious people. For example, putting 1.5 million Turkic Muslims in concentration camps in China, and then in Burma, Myanmar, putting another couple million Muslims in Rakhine State in concentration camps. And that's just China. China is officially atheist. Myanmar, Burma is officially Buddhist, and India is supposed to be secular. But you know, people putting religious sentiment in the laws to say which group is better than another and which group deserves full recognition of personhood. That's the problem.
Well, it's been great. This is a really great conversation, guys. We definitely ran longer than I thought we would, but it didn't seem like it. So I would love for all of you all to come back, and we can definitely have a part 2. So
Yes.
this was nice, and yeah, thank you.
Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise. Stop, listen, share. Everyone can make a difference. We are on a mission. Everyone should do something greater in their lifetime. Change the future. Be a proud member. Join us to support, volunteer, and donate.